Triple J, I'm Gemma Pike, and this is the time of the week that we hand over the controls of the radio to somebody else, give them a theme, let them go wild with 5 songs that they choose. And today it is my absolute pleasure to have in the studio Noel Gallagher. Hey Noel.
Hello.
So nice for you to be with us on this wonderful Friday morning. You've been in the country playing a whole bunch of shows with Blues Fest, your own headline shows. How have they been going?
They've been great. I always have a good time when I come down to Australia. It's one of my favourite places to come, and the gigs never let you down. You know, I've done maybe 3 or 4 so far, and they've all been great. It's a real pleasure.
Do you have a lot of friends here in Australia that you've met on the other times that you've been down? Do you catch up with folk?
I have a few from back home in Manchester who are still on the run from the authorities, so let's not speak anymore about that. I've got a few people who I knew, funnily enough, at Manchester City in Manchester, who are now running Melbourne City in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people from various ex-record labels down the years, you know. So, yeah, there's a few.
You did. You went to one of the football matches a little bit earlier on in the week, didn't you?
I did. I went to see Melbourne City beat Wellington 3-0, which was quite confusing to start with because I was kind of sitting there thinking, sure, Wellington is in a different country. And
it is.
Pointed out that it was actually in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Why are they playing in the same league? And they said, oh, don't mention that. Just watch the game. And yeah, so was it an international match, an international fixture? I don't know. But anyway, City won and won 3-0 and went top of the league. And it was a rather enjoyable night out, I have to say.
Is Melbourne City your adopted Australian League team?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we hate the victory, whoever they are.
You've just been given the word on the side before going in and watching the
Yeah,
this is who you like, this is who you
Well,
like.
I was there and I was saying, isn't there another Melbourne team? And everyone was like, yeah, we don't mention them.
Well, it sounds like it's all going really, really well. You're playing tonight, one last show in Australia at the Crown Theatre, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But we've got you in here today to take over the radio, choosing 5 songs and 5 bands that have taught you something. So I want to start back in 1991 with this track that you've chosen from The Real People.
Yes.
Can't wait. How did these guys help you out?
So I was... before I became a internationally renowned, award-winning rock star, I was a mere member of a road crew for a band called Inspiral Carpets. And these guys from The Real People toured with Inspiral Carpets. And I really liked them. I'd already bought their album. And I was a fan of another contemporary band of theirs, which were called alias, which everybody must know. And when we started Oasis, we went to see these guys at the Boardwalk in Manchester where we used to rehearse, and they said, oh, you're that roadie guy. And I was like, yes, and I'd kind of got to know them a bit. And so our Oasis's first ever demos were done in The Real People's rehearsal studio in Liverpool. We became quite friendly with them and would travel back and forward to Liverpool on a weekly basis and do demos and hang out and listen to music. And what I took from those guys was the way that they perceived music was different to anybody I'd ever met in Manchester. Manchester was quite arty and very kind of straightforward. And although the music that comes out of Manchester is very unique, the people are quite straightforward, I think. Whereas if you go like half an hour down the road to Liverpool, the people that I was hanging out with my age were quite far out, psychedelic, you know, drug-addled lunatics, you know, and we were all into the same kind of music. And it was great to hang out with those lads, and they taught us a lot about vocal harmonies and stuff like that, and they played us records we'd never heard before and vice versa. I mean, I'm sure it was a cross-pollination thing, you know what I mean? I'm sure they took as much from us as we did from them, but it was great. There were great moments in my life, and I think back to those days of, it's when Oasis was really, the Definitely Maybe thing was just forming in my mind. And, you know, the demos that we did at the Real People studio became our first demo tape that we made 10 of. And we were that ambitious that we kept 8 of them for ourselves, lost one, and the other one ended up at Factory Records, who didn't bother to sign us. But it was like there was early versions of Rock and Roll Star on Bring It On Down and Columbia.
Yeah.
And they were great times in my life. And when I go back to Liverpool from time to time, which I'm going back to Liverpool in a few weeks, I've got a gig there, I'll kind of drive around the streets again, and it'll bring back great memories.
Oh, fantastic. I can almost envision it. I think anyone who's had those, real passionate love affairs with music have had those nights where they sit with their friends over a few too many beers well into the morning and just chat about bands putting on records. It sounds amazing.
It's a great part of growing up. It's like it's something that once you grow up and have kids and all that kind of thing, you kind of don't do anymore, do you know what I mean? Unless you're playing them to your kids, and quite frankly, if I could drag my kids away from an iPad, I'd play them the odd tune from time to time.
They're not into music much?
They're certainly not into my music, let's put it that way. They're into music that they listen to on the way to school, which is pretty much dominated by my wife's taste, who has got pretty good taste in music, but she likes current kind of popular music. But they're some of my favourite memories of growing up, is sitting, passing CDs around and saying, let me play you this or I'll play you that. And, that's kind of like rites of passage stuff, innit?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, let's teach the kids something today, hey? This is The Real People, I Can't Wait. Noel Gallagher taking 5 with us this morning on Triple J.
All around Australia, this is Triple J.
On your Friday morning, this is Triple J, and that... getting me there at the end. A really great remix of a song that I remember from the album Screamadelica being my favourite, flipping over to side B and starting off with a massive 10-minute song. But that's a bit of a remix as chosen today by Noel Gallagher. He's in Taking 5 today with 5 bands that have taught him something. And Primal Scream, that particular remix though, why have you chosen that, Noel?
Well, I mean, there's 100 songs by Primal Scream you could choose, and they would all sound completely different, which is a testament to them and their vision of what it is they are. I don't know, I was flicking through a library of tunes and I thought, I haven't heard that one for ages, and I played it and I thought, that sounds amazing still today, and so I chose that one. But you could choose, like I say, you could choose 1,000 of their songs. On most of Screamadelica, like Moving On Up and Rocks, and you Higher Than the Sun, Loaded, they're one of my favourite ever bands, and one of my most respected bunch of people that I know in the music in the music game. I remember when we first came down to London from Manchester, and when I first met Bobby and Andrew, I thought, there are people like us in the world, because I remember being up north and thinking, there's nobody quite like us up there, do you know what I mean? I didn't mean in a musical sense, I thought we were better than anybody else, but we seemed to get on completely and utterly, wholeheartedly, and we stayed firm friends for 20-odd years, we were on the greatest record label of all time in Creation Records, and the years we spent on there were carefree and wild and crazy, and, the offices we worked out of were brilliant. They were the greatest offices ever. And but Primal Scream has stayed with me, and when Creation went under, we all kind of went our separate ways. But me and Primal Scream have ended up back at the same office now, so I see quite a lot. Yeah, they've kind of, my company, whatever it is, there's a few record labels in there on one of them. What I like about them is every record that they make is a different record. They'll make a record like Screamadelica, and then they'll go on and the very next record will be a country rock record, and then the one after that will be some electronic disco record, and the one after that will be a psychedelic rock record. So you're never quite sure what you're going to get with them. And they are by far and away one of the best British bands that have been around in my lifetime anyway. And why they never get nominated for these Lifetime Achievement Awards is a bit of a travesty, I think.
There's got to be one in the works, surely. Contribution to music, so many years, so many decades, surely.
Well, there are people swanning around Britain with garages full of Brit Awards, and I don't think they've got one, which is a disgrace. But
maybe we can pinch one off Alex Turner.
Alex Turner.
You don't know him?
He's in the Alias. He's singing out the Arctic Monkeys, isn't he?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a few, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can't say that I'm across the Brit Awards as much as I would be.
Well, me
neither.
Me neither. I'm just pointing out that there seems to be quite a divide between those who have and those who have not.
Yeah. What I really like that it sounds like you've got a huge catalogue of Primal Scream stuff, and that you picked that particular remix, the Hypnotone Brain Machine mix. But you've just done a remix album of your latest as well.
Yeah, I've kind of got to a place where for years and years Oasis never really got involved in that, because the music that we were making at that point didn't really lend itself to that kind of thing. But now I've kind of gotten to a place where my music, I can, as I'm writing these songs and recording them, I can actually hear the remixes, and which brings me to the one thing, or one of the things I've learned from Primal Scream is, never be afraid to farm your songs out to people that you've never met. I mean, the people who've done the remixes for me on the remix album, I've never met these people. You know what I mean? I barely spoke to them on the phone, and yet they come back and they kind of find something in a song of yours that you never knew existed, and they work on that and they focus on it, and it turns it into something else. Now, on the flip side to that is, sometimes you get a remix back and you go, what on earth is that? I've had more than a few of well-respected, like, famous remixes, and the CD will arrive and you'll get all excited and stick it in the CD player and turn it on, and you just think, are they taking a piss? I mean, what? How have you got that from that? So it's a kind of bit of a hit and miss, but, you've got to kind of embrace that kind of side of it,
Well, that's the great thing about music, right? All subjective.
Well, no, of course. I mean, if, you're giving a track to the Chemical Brothers, do you know what I mean? It's like you can't tell them then how to remix it, you know what I mean? Or else you might as well go and do it yourself. So you're kind of, you have to hope for the best. And I've got to say, for this time round particularly, on my new stuff, it's all coming back sounding great.
Noel Gallagher's in Taking 5 this morning with bands that have taught him something. We're getting this really great perspective on, a great musical mind and what has influenced them. And we're about to go into something that I'm quite excited about, the soundtrack of our lives. This next song we're going to play is called Infra, Riot. They're a Swedish rock band, and you've said, Noel, that they were a really massive influence on late period Oasis.
Huge. I'm not sure Oasis would have gone on much longer if we hadn't met those guys. When this track is off an album called Behind the Music, and when it came out, it came out with very little fanfare, and I'd read a review, and you pick out the key words like psychedelic rock, the Beatles, blah blah blah, and all this kind of thing. So I bought it, and this is the first track on side one. When it came out of the speakers, I was looking at the CD, the cover, just going, who on earth are these guys? And I had to find out more about them, and I realised it was like their fourth album, and I went back and bought the other 3 albums, and they became quickly one of my favourite bands, and then we booked them to come on a world tour with us, and then not only that, they became some of my favourite ever people. They're from Sweden, the singer is insane, the 2 guitarists, Matthias and Ian, are 2 of the best guitarists ever. Every gig they were playing it like it was their last show, and the drummer was, the drummer, you've got to see this guy, since his name is Freddie, and we toured with them for the best part of a year all across America, and some of my favourite ever people of all time. They are so into it, what they do, and have such a brilliant understanding of what it is to be in a band, and we had some great nights out. And what I learnt from them is we were doing a gig once in Belfast, and we were walking past their dressing room as we were going on stage, and there was a commotion in their dressing room that I thought that like an elephant was being slaughtered in there. It was the most horrific sound I've ever heard in my entire life. I couldn't even describe it. It sounded like the end of the world, and it kind of opened the door, and they've got, the band and their crew have got one of their, their lot, they're holding him up against the ceiling, they're throwing him in the air and singing, or chanting this gothic chant, and I thought, man, this is like some medieval religious shit that's going on here. And I said to one of the guys, what's going on there? And he said, oh, it's his birthday. So what I learned from this is when it's our birthday, right, we sit around and go, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear, whatever your name is. Happy. When the Swedish people have birthday, I was saying, what are the lyrics of this song? And they were like, oh, we're sending him to Valhalla on a flaming ship across the desert sands of time, and we'll see him again someday. And I was like, well, I want to be Swedish. I want to be Swedish.
Maybe for the next 4.5 minutes you can be, Noel, because we're going to check on this song now. Infra, Riot, the soundtrack of our lives. You're not going to get a better intro than that.
Yep.
Noel Gallagher, Taking 5, Triple J.
This is Triple J.
On Triple J, that's U2 and California, There Is No End to Love, from their most recent release, Songs of Innocence. And that's one of 5 bands that Noel Gallagher has chosen today, bands that have taught him something. Noel, I know that you've said that U2 are, a huge favourite of yours. Is Joshua Tree probably, if you were going to whittle it down, your favourite album of theirs? It's hard, isn't it? It's a tough question, sorry.
It's got to be a toss-up between the Joshua Tree, Actung Baby, and All That You Can't Leave Behind. I'm going to go for the best of U2.
Yeah, good call. The compilation.
The singles.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. The number ones. That song, though, from their most recent release, why did you pick that track?
I'll tell you why. Because I was just listening to it before I came out, and with that band, the chorus is the king. And they've written some of the best choruses of our generation, of our lifetime even, do you know what I mean? And I was listening to that coming out. I mean, I know the last album, Songs of Innocence, it's a weird one because they made sure we all got it.
They sure did, didn't
They made sure.
Everyone's smartphones got updated with it, yeah.
There was going to be no stone left unturned with that. Anybody was, no one in the world was going to go, oh, I didn't know you had an album out.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
People.
So it kind of, I don't listen to that record as much as I would listen to the others, but with the advent of modern technology now, one can make a playlist, and I was listening to U2 this morning, and I thought, you know what? That's a brilliant chorus. I've always loved that song. It's a great chorus, and I went to see him on this tour. I've been to see him 6 or 7 times on this tour, or the tour that they just did last year alone. It was brilliant. They're at a real peak. And I was honoured enough to be asked to get up on stage with them in London, and Bono said to me, would you want to get up on stage with us tonight? And I said, let me think about that for 2 seconds. Yes. And he said, and I said, what do you want me to play? He said, you can play any song you want. I was like, what? Where'd you start there? You know? And so I said, you know what, I'd really love to play. I'd love to play Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And we played that at the O2, and I got to sing it as well.
Oh, wow.
You can find it on YouTube if anybody's bothered. It is quite the performance, let me tell you.
What did Bono get relegated to?
Just being in awe of me.
Yeah.
You know.
Tambourine Man.
There's one bit where he pops his in-ear monitors out, and you can see there's a thought bubble above his head going, my God, this kid can sing. And it was a brilliant moment. My wife was there and my kids were there. My kids adore U2. Right? My kids think they're proper rock stars, right? And of course, when you go and see them, there's all the bells and the whistles, and there's more technologies than there is in NASA. Yeah. And what I've learned from them is that as long as your choruses are good, you don't have to be. If you get the balance right, you can stick around in the music business forever. If you fall into the trap of thinking that you're great, and you're for want of a better word, your shit isn't, right? Then you're not going to last very long. But if what you do is great, then you don't have to be good at all. I'm actually, this is going to blow you away. I'm not actually very good. But my songs, what I spend most of my waking hours on writing, are great, and people think they're great. So nobody notices that I'm not very good. Do you know what I mean? When people are singing all the songs like their lives depend on it, there's no one there going, yeah, but look at him though. He's an idiot. So I'm not a great singer. I'm not a great guitarist. I certainly can't dance. But because my songs resonate with people in some form, I can get away with it, do you know what I mean? And Bono told me that one night. He said, as long as your shit's good, you don't have to be good. But the most important thing that I've learned from that band and about that band is that Adam Clayton, who is a neighbour of mine, we live on the same street, has an unhealthy obsession with interior design and soft furnishings, which can only be matched by my wife. And they can sit and debate, and they can put a year on a vase at a glance. Oh, that's 60s Italian, that is. It's just like, wow, that's amazing. Bass player from U2 knows all about soft furnishings and doorknobs. And I've also learnt that the Edge, if you're talking to the Edge and you stare deep enough into his eyes, you can actually see his brain working over time inside, because he's from the future. He's like Dr. Spock, who plays the guitar. I've also learnt that U2 is run by the drummer. It's his band, and it's his way or the highway. But what I've learnt mostly, and more importantly, is that Bono is a very, very silly man.
I love it. Noel Gallagher is taking 5 with us this morning on Triple J, sharing with us 5 bands who have taught him something. And we're going out today with a very good friend of yours, I believe.
He's also a neighbour. If you can believe this,
No.
I have Adam Clayton on one side, Paul Weller around the corner.
This is the most rock and roll street ever.
It is. I actually live next door to the manager of The Who as well, if you can believe that.
No way.
I know. And Robbie Williams used to live on next door but one, but he moved out. We don't want to mention that.
Yeah. Paul Weller, a good mate of yours. You guys are always popping up, working together on songs and stuff. You helped out a little bit on his latest album, right?
I went and worked on the sessions for this record, but what we did, I don't think ended up on the album. That's actually ended up on the new Monkeys album, if you can believe that.
Oh, yes. So this is coming out. This is like the 50th anniversary Monkeys album, right? That they're getting a whole bunch of people like Weezer and Death Cab for Cutie and stuff.
Yeah, me and Well, I'd written a tune, we didn't know what to do with it, and then they asked him, he said, let's sell it to them. Awesome. So there you go, what can you say? But, yeah, so I worked on the sessions for Saturn's Pattern, but what I did, I don't think, made it onto the record. But Paul is... he's my oldest friend in the music business, and I don't mean old in the sense that he's 103. I mean, I've known him for a long time, and I've been in various states of dishevelment with him and on stage with him, and I've toured with him, and I've toured playing with him in his group, and I've been in back of bands with him, and I've been thrown out of hotels with him. We've been in fights and been stayed up and watched the sun come up, and we've done a lot of things down the years, but he is one guy that I've met that truly and utterly lives it day to day, and he means it. And when he's in the studio, he's totally immersed in the record that he's making. And he's another man like Primal Scream, he'll never repeat himself, or try not to anyway. He's a totally inspiring dude, can be tricky at times. He's relentlessly takes the piss out of me in my own kitchen sometimes, you know, for whatever I'm wearing, or you know, who I'm hanging out with, But I don't think you'll find another person in the music business more passionate about what he does. I don't think he has ever had a day off. If he's not working on an album, he's working on a photographic book, or if he's not doing that, he's working on an exhibition, or if he's not doing that, he's trying to find, he's putting a compilation album together from Soul 60s label, or if he's not doing that, he's looking for a badge that he lost in 1978, do you know what I mean? Weller is still pushing himself on to be the best and to be relevant, and he's uncompromising. This is a guy that's written some of the great songs of the 20th century. You know.
Without a doubt.
I guess it's because he's still young at heart, I think. When he comes round to my house, and you're not sitting there, conversing with a guy who's been in the music business for... I mean, you are talking to a guy that's been at it for 50 years, but he doesn't seem like that. He seems like a teenager, do you know what I mean? And that is something to aspire to. What I've learnt from him is you've got to own it, and you've got to mean it. And he puts everything into his gigs and his performances and his recording sessions, and it infuriates him that I don't, and I'm saying, yeah, but Paul, the greats don't really have to try, You're working up a sweat there, you know what I mean? I'm sitting here putting the kettle on watching the football. It's all just happening. It's just happening. I don't know how you can do it, mate. I get bored.
Good on him.
But there you go.
Oh, just awesome. Well, I don't think you're going to get a better rap than that. Paul Weller, a great mate of yours, Noel. Now, just before you go, you are playing one more show this evening at the Crown Theatre in Perth, and then after that you're heading to the UK and Europe to continue the tour?
I'm literally walking off stage to the airport. I'm going to fly home. I've got a week off, and then I've got an arena tour in the UK, and then I've got loads of festivals in Europe, and then back to the States, and then back to England, and then more gigs, and then I think I've got a mini stroke booked in round about the middle of September, and I kind of get over that, and then I'm working right up till November, and after that I think I'm gonna have a blood transfusion and fake my own death.
Well, hopefully we hear from you after you've faked your death, Noel, because we'd love to.
I may have changed my name to Shirley by then, though. So if you see an extremely dodgy-looking middle-aged woman that sounds like me but looks like one of your aunties, you'll know I'm back.
I'm really looking forward to it, strangely.
Yeah, don't be.
Noel, it's been such a pleasure hanging out with you this morning. All the best, and
Thank you, ma'am.
we'll see you next time when you tour as Shirley.
Indeed. Bye.
Bye.